Welcome to the Avro Heritage Museum podcast.
We're very fortunate today to bring you another interview with a Lancaster veteran. That makes 3 over the past 2 weeks. Roy Lawrence is 100 years old. He volunteered at the age of 17, so young that his dad had to countersign the papers. He joined 44 Squadron at the age of 18, having trained as a flight engineer and served in 2 other squadrons in East Anglia until the end of the war. Roy talks about his disappointment at not making it to be a Spitfire pilot, recalls operations on Lancasters, reflects on the sadness of losing crew team members, and remembers how crews tried to relax once they had made it safely back home. Exactly like our mid-upper gunner and our wireless operator in earlier episodes, Roy doesn't display any signs of bravado, just quiet courage and determination in describing extraordinary events, just getting on with the job. I went to meet Roy and his family, and we chatted in the garden on a peaceful, sunny, early summer's evening. Before Roy began talking about much darker days, I asked him to tell us a little bit about his family life before the war.
Well, I can go back to when I was 5 years of age, and we went to India. My father was a musical director with the Voice Orchestra. I remember going down to the dock, and my grandmother said to my mother, "Cheerio," she said, "I'll never see you again." And she was right. She died at 53. And we went to India, went to New Delhi. Viceregal Lodge was the big estate there of all the band's people and the wives, children, the whole lot were there. And of course, you all had servants. My brother and I, unfortunately, they didn't have an English school there, so we were put in a school up in the Himalayas called Sanaa. We were there. We used to get leave, obviously, and when you did get leave, you got a sort of a month at a time because it was 2 days' travel on the train. We were sent up there with just the label on us, but I was 5, or just gone 5. My brother was 18 months younger than me. After 8 years, Dad got fed up. He said, "We're going home." We thoroughly enjoyed it there, my brother and I, and my mum. And we didn't want to leave. But anyway, we came home. Of course, I was still young enough to go to school, so I went to Gorse Hill School in Stretford. I went from there to Stretford Technical College, and from Stretford Technical College I started work at Metropolitan Vickers, and then of course the war started. I was 17 years and 3 months because I wanted to be a Spitfire pilot, but unfortunately I wasn't quick enough on navigation, so they sent me down to Eastleigh in the Isle of Ely. They questioned me and put me through all sorts of tests, and eventually they decided, would I like to go on bombers? I said, well, anything that's flying, They said, well, we'll think you'll make a good flight engineer. So from there I went to Eastleigh.
What was the job of the fighting?
Well, virtually looking after all those instruments and switching the fuel over from tank to tank, and of course you were a second pilot, so you had to learn the controls. My first squadron was at Spilsby, 44 Squadron, which was Rhodesian Squadron. And it was on one of those flights that we lost our navigator. He was hit with a shell fired from an enemy fighter. They decided to split us all up after that, probably because of the trauma affected by it, I got sent to 75 Squadron, which was at Maple in Cambridgeshire. We lost another skipper. Well, I don't know whether it was the pilot or not, actually, but we lost another man there, and they sent me to 115 Squadron, which fortunately wasn't far from Maple. It was at Wychford, so I went to Wychford, and that's where I stayed until the actual war ended, as it were.
When we watched the films about the Second World War, I think there are lots of things in it that clearly were not right, and it's great to be able to ask somebody who was there. One thing that interests me, when you were going on the daylight raid to bomb this steelworks, the Schneider factory, do you remember the briefing? How does the briefing work? Because you're not told where you're going, are you, until
to tell you the actual case.
Right.
Yeah.
And is it like on the films that there's a map with a curtain and the curtain comes back and all is revealed?
More or less, yeah.
Yes. And how did you all feel at that point? Because you can look at, there's a ribbon, isn't there, that goes to the target. Did people look with great interest where you were going?
Well, we had to look with interest at it because that's where you were going, no more so than any other. They were all the same, more or less.
Yeah. And you were all 18, 19, 20, weren't you? So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was 18 before I got into a squadron. Because before that we were St John's Wood, where we did our basic training, footwear, marching up and down, and just general. Yeah, there was nothing special about it. But when you passed it out there, then you went up. Well, I went up to St Andrews because that's where we trained the pilots in St Andrews in Scotland. And from there, I remember failing when I was told I'd failed as a pilot. Getting on the phone to home, and I spoke to my dad and cried my eyes out because I couldn't be a pilot on Spitfires. And it was my dad who suggested, he said, well, there's plenty of other flying jobs. And that's when I got sent down to Eastleigh. And from there, they sent me to St Athens. And I trained as a flight engineer. And that was how I went into 44 Squadron as a flight engineer.
The other scene people remember from the way it's depicted in films is that moment of the final approach before the bombs are released. How are people feeling then, the crew?
Dead scared. If anybody tells you differently, they're lying.
Yeah. Because that was, all the moments were dangerous, but that was particularly...
Oh, of course. Yeah. You're only too glad to get out of it. Drop them and let's go home.
Yeah. But you must have been very proud. That Operation Robinson, it is very well known. And one of the people who took part was Guy Gibson, The guy on
yeah,
Operation Chastise Dambusters 1 year later,
yeah.
he reckoned it was one of the greatest daylight raids of the war. So it was something quite momentous.
I didn't know that. No, I never knew that. That's something I've learned off you now.
And I think that raid, was 94 aircraft. But after that particular operation, you went on a number of 1,000 bomber raids, didn't you? 1,000 aircraft. Which one was it?
Only one.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that's hard to imagine.
Well, what can I tell you?
Yeah.
There were 1,000 aircraft up there, and we were heading for, I think that was a Berlin one. Or was it Potsdam? I'm not sure.
And I'm thinking, though, if you're looking out of the aircraft, it must be different just seeing that many, aircraft, just number of aircraft in the sky.
Oh, it's wonderful to see it, And when you're up there, flying up there, if you're on a night flight, which you mostly were, night flying, and the pathfinders had been in the night before, and of course Jerry knew we were coming, and the place was lit up because the pathfinders they'd let off very, very cartridges and all sorts, and a lot of flak. The place was lit up at night time, and my skipper Cookie, he's the one man I remember. I thought was absolutely over the moon about it. He loved it. He looked out the bloody window. He said, "It done me wrong." So we had to go round again. He was as mad as a bloody hatter, Cookie.
Yeah, I can imagine the language then, even if people weren't speaking it. I can imagine what people were saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, again, all sort of dangers at every level, isn't it? The fighters. But that many aircraft in very close proximity, in the dark. This is the point, isn't it? They're not lit up.
They were all skillful. Otherwise they wouldn't be there.
Now, sadly, you lost a number of colleagues, didn't you, on operations? A wireless operator, a bomb aimer, a navigator. Obviously, there must have been enormous sadness back at base, mustn't there? I mean, presumably at breakfast, it's those empty chairs at empty tables, isn't it?
Well, with the two crews that I flew with, where we lost members, we never flew as a crew again. I suppose prevent you all from being traumatic about it. Because as I see anyway, if you all stayed together, you'd be forever talking about, So they obviously thought in their wisdom that it'd be better if we broke up and we sent to other squadrons. And that's how I came to move on from 44 to 75 to 115.
That sense of relief at getting home after that kind of experience, you get back in the morning. What was the routine? Did you get debriefing first?
Oh, you got debriefed, yeah. You always got debriefed.
And tell us a little bit about what happened at the debrief.
Well, they simply ask you, were you successful? And did you hit your target? The usual questions. I suppose that's what they all asked. I don't know.
And then was it breakfast then?
Yeah, more or less.
Good breakfast?
Yeah. But we always got a good breakfast, egg and bacon and what have you.
At least you did that, isn't it? You'd gone through that terrible experience and you were doing it night after night. You're back, you've had your debriefing, you have your breakfast. How did you spend the days then? I mean, because you're all young. What sort of things did you do?
Yeah, well, you were allowed to go out, so you visited the various towns where you were, or near where you were, or you got together and had a game of cards or whatever, always in uniform. You didn't have civic clothes. I don't think anybody had a civilian suit at all. No.
But there was always, hopefully, as you say, you'd try and do things that are enjoyable, but always in the knowledge that you've got to go back, haven't you? That was
always. Yeah, you always had that knowledge that you could be on that night on a bombing run, but you weren't on every night. And when you weren't on, you made your own enjoyment. We were allowed to go into town and we were allowed to have a pint or two, and that's why I like my beer now.
At the end of the war, I think you got the chance to drop something other than bombs out of
Oh, yeah, we were on the bread run.
The bread run. Tell us about the bread run.
The bread run over Belgium and Holland, and, because they were short of food. It's not that we had plenty, because we were still rationed. We always had rations. But because you were in the forces, you got more rations than the civilian population.
And peace came, thankfully, and in 1947, you chose to be demobbed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 47.
There's so many people who'd gone through such trauma. Readjusting to peace must have... Was it?
No, not really. We were just delighted that we don't all got to drop bloody bombs at night time.
No, that's absolutely understandable, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And then what did life hold for you then, Roy, after the war?
Well, I had to consider what I was going to do then, and I didn't fancy working indoors anyway. So I didn't go back to Metropolitan Vickers. I went lumberjacking.
Like you did.
It's not far from Ruthin. And there was 6 of us. Yeah, 6 of us. And we lived in a farmhouse. And she got extra rations because we were fulfilling a government order to lay this particular space bare of trees. So we had 2 on saws, getting them down. 2 were lopping them and cutting them to size, and 2 loading them on a truck. And we all lived in this farmhouse. The truck used to come for us at 6 in the morning, take us to the site. Then he buzzed off, and if it was like this, you got bitten by bugs and stung by wasps and bees. And if it was raining, you got soaking bloody wet, and that was it, because there was nowhere else you could stop. We didn't have a shelter there, and no hut there, or anything. You just got off in the most of the trees and you go working. That lasted about 4 months, I think. And then that was that. Then I had to find another form of employment, so I went to work for Betterware, and it's still going, I believe.
It is, yeah.
Where you go round from door to door, get the orders, submit them, then whatever the people are ordered was delivered to your house. Yeah, if I'd have stayed in the forces, I was offered a commission to sign on for 12 months. Just 12 months it was. But I thought, no, I'd rather get out in the city street. So I did. Worst move I ever made. I should have stayed in. Yeah, I should have stayed in the forces, because I would have retired. I went back to Metropolitan Vickers afterwards, after one or two other jobs that I did. mainly for firms that sold clothing, and I used to do all that. You forget an awful lot. You do.
Well, Roy, it's been a great pleasure to meet you. We're recording this on a lovely early summer's evening. I think we can't help think of you and the other 6 people in those aircraft taking off on such death-defying missions. So we thank you for today.
You're very welcome.
For talking to us, but also for all what you did all those years ago, because we'll never forget it, and we salute you. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Make sure you follow us in your podcast app to ensure that you don't miss out on future episodes.